What's happening, guys? All one of you out there so far? Yo, what is happening? I'm glad the chat is working properly this time. All right, so thanks guys for joining me. I hope you're having a nice Friday so far. Title of this one about cars being too complicated. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, but first I want to just tell you how I feel about where it's going right now. And yes, I do feel like cars have become too complicated. I feel like they've become too much of appliances these days, and I feel like they've made it unaccessible for most people to be able to work on their cars themselves, and that has led to a decreased interest in vehicles overall. So my concern is because of that, there's a whole generation now of younger people who aren't as into vehicles anymore, and I think that is a detriment to our hobby. It's something that we have a passion for. You always have to have that next generation that's pushing ahead and creating their own style, their own imprint on things. And so when you don't have that, there's a real issue there. I'm really grateful for people like Garrett Mitchell, aka Cletus McFarlane, because he is a younger guy and he's kind of bringing along this whole younger generation of people and getting them into cars. Whether or not you agree with everything he does or the way in which he does it, he has a huge following and he's creating interest in automotive things, and for that I appreciate it. 67 Power Wagon. Whew, man. Yeah, that's an old school vehicle right there. I'll tell you my Power Wagon story. So back in high school, there was a kid, Tony. He was a grade younger than me, and he was really into Dodges at the time. And his dad owned the local machine shop in our town. He had a Power Wagon that he put a 440 in, and he was always talking about this thing, about this crazy motor he was building for it. But he was talking about it for so long, you're like, yeah, Tony, whatever. You're never going to get that thing done. Well, he did. He got it done. He put it all together, and he had a Power Wagon that was really fast as well. But he had this Dodge truck that he put this 440 into, and I remember he had 35-inch tires on it, and he took me for a drive. And I'll never forget, we left the river road in our town, and he just stomps on this thing, and he's got it in 4-wheel drive, and all four 35-inch tires just go up in smoke on this thing. It was awesome. Quite enjoyed that. What's your guys' thoughts on that, though? Do you feel like that the younger generation right now, the current generation, that they're not as into cars, or do you think it's because the cost of entry to get into cars is higher than it used to be? What do you guys think? I think that's partly true, that they don't want to work for anything. There's some element to that. I think they're so used to this world where you just have tablets and computers and everything is online, that why work for it when it will just come to you anyway? So I definitely think there is an element of truth to that. Yeah, it's tough though. I mean, like, what do you do instead? Like, the only way to get them into it is to make it attractive, make it appealing to them somehow. And I think that's the real question, is how do we do that? How do we make it interesting and fun for them as well? I mean, for me, I remember being back in high school, and even though like I was the car guy in high school, I remember most of my friends were also into cars. They weren't into it as much as I was, but they were into cars, right? It just doesn't seem like it anymore. Yeah, the vehicles of today need special tools to communicate, calibrate, no more simple fixes. That is absolutely true. And one of my biggest issues with the way they have done vehicles now is that systems are not isolated anymore. It used to be you had your powertrain system, your chassis system, your body system, all that. It's all completely integrated now. So even though you have more and more modules, there's a modern Pacifica, for example, they have over 40 different modules that are active at any given time in a Pacifica. The problem is they're all tied to each other. So if you have an issue with one module, it sets a code in about 30 other modules. So they're all talking to each other. Therefore, you can't just piecemeal parts one from another and put it on something else because it's just completely confused. So you have to go full standalone for stuff like that. It's made it much more difficult to make something cool and custom out of the modern vehicles. Yeah. But I also think, the cars themselves, do they elicit the proper or the kind of visceral response that you want to have? I remember as a kid, there's certain vehicles that you see them and you're just like, man, that's a really cool car. I love that car. And I think some of the cars today are some of the best cars that have ever been made. They're truly incredible. You talk about the horsepower wars, man. Today, the modern horsepower war is absolutely unreal what these cars are able to do. So I think that's pretty amazing. So I'm trying to figure out where that disconnect is, that the younger generation just doesn't really seem to care. And I know you guys probably aren't like big motorcycle guys, but I'm a huge motorcycle fanatic, and the younger generation does not care about motorcycles at all. They have no interest in them. Motorcycle sales are through the floor right now. They just are terrible, and we got to figure that out. Got to get that turned around. All right. Well, this has been an overwhelmingly popular topic so far. So let me ask you guys, hit me up with some questions, throw something in the chat. If you have some questions about cars at all, like if you have some problems with your car that you're having, or if you have some modifications you want to do to your car that you want to talk about, what do you think that is cool in the world of cars? And also another thing I want to ask too is basically, like, why are you passionate about cars? What is it that got you into cars, and what's it that keep coming back for more? See, Jay Built It says, "What's up? I was into cars since I can't remember. My father likes cars. I got it from him. Trying to teach my kid the same. He's only 6, but he loves cars." That is awesome. That is very cool. You know what? I'll tell you a funny story. Growing up, I thought my dad was into cars because he was always working on our cars. And so I was like, oh, he's a car guy, Only later I find out that he just didn't have money to pay somebody else to work on it. So that's why he worked on them. He's not necessarily a car guy. Like, he has a casual interest, but he's definitely not a car guy per se. Canada, the land of Canada. Whereabouts in Canada? East side or west side? Do more videos on early Gen 3 Hemi, like a 6.1 swap on a 5.7. I would like to. I actually really like the early ones, like the 06s and stuff. People complain about them because they say, oh, they have the valve seat issues on there, but I like the 06. It's a very simple design, very simple engine, and I like working on those. Toronto, a 76 Monte Carlo. Nice. There you go. You guys want to hear about my first car? I never talked about that before. I'll throw it in there. So a lot of you guys probably would not guess this, but I am a big time, or I was a big time VW guy. I was huge into VWs way back when. And so my first car was a 71 Super Beetle that I bought when I was 14, and I spent 2.5 years rebuilding this thing from the ground up. It was pretty fun. I put a pretty good engine in there, did all the work myself, definitely paid some dues on that. And it was, I'm not a bodywork guy, so it was like patchwork colors all over the place, but it was still, I don't know, it was a cool car for a high school ride. If you could only own one car the rest of your life, what would it be? Man, that's a good question. I mean, you got to have the practicality, but there's going to be some fun in there too. The answer that comes to my mind right away that might surprise you is a Subaru Forester Xt. I love Subarus. I'm a big Subaru guy. We've had 4 of them so far. I really enjoy Subarus, and the Forester Xt that was a cool car. Like, I'm talking before they started looking like an SUV, like you know, I don't know, 2010, something like that, 2008. One of those Forester Xts. Those are cool. 2012 Mopar Edition Chrysler 300. A Jeep SRT8. Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. It's funny. We don't see a ton of those. I was surprised when they came out with them. Subarus are great. You know, I'll keep telling you guys stories, but basically when I started dating my wife, she had a 99 Subaru wagon, and I'd never even driven one before. And I will say this, that is, the 99 wagon was one of the most epically slow vehicles I've ever driven in my life. But to that point, I thought that the Subaru all-wheel drive stuff was a bunch of nonsense. Like, okay, sure, all-wheel drive, who cares? And then we lived in a place where it snowed, or I moved to a place where it snowed fairly regularly. And we're driving her car, and we were helping somebody move, and I pulled off to what I thought was the side of the road, but was in fact a ditch. It was covered in snow, so I couldn't tell, and I just sunk this car in a ditch and put it in reverse, and it drove right out. And I was basically sold after that. So like I said, I've had 4 Subarus now. Also saved me quite a few times in the ice. Terrific cars. I like them because they're basically dialed. They've been making the same car for like 30 years now, mechanically. So everything on them is really solid and reliable. Like, you don't have to mess with them too much. That's the perfect recipe for a daily driver, is one that just works when you get in it. We all love to work on our project vehicles, but when your project vehicle is your daily, that's an issue. I don't know how many of you guys out there, they have your project vehicle as your daily. That's a rough road to travel. I've done that before. Let me hear from you guys. What was your first car? Thank you, Jose. Appreciate that. Yeah, by the way, guys, a lot of videos coming on that C10. I've been filming a bunch this last week and a half. Really, really hope you guys watch that series. The early videos on it didn't do particularly well, but it's a really fun vehicle. Do you like Volvo cars? You know what's funny? I do like Volvo cars. The dealer I worked at before, it was a Dodge dealer, but it was also a Volvo dealer. So we worked with a lot of Volvos. And my wife had a C30 for a few years, and that was one of her favorite cars she ever had. She almost just got another Volvo wagon just recently. They're actually pretty good cars. That inline 5 turbo is pretty spunky. Also, let's see, what is your opinion on hybrid and full electric vehicles? So that's tough. My brother is a huge hybrid guy, electric vehicle guy. He is all about it, 100%. And the reason why is because he is also a car guy, and he believes that we're basically going to get our toys taken away from us, our gas powered stuff, if we don't make the shift to electric for our daily vehicle. And I can kind of see where he's coming from with that. I'm not a huge fan of them just because they don't elicit any sort of passion for me, but there's no denying that they are more reliable in many ways to have an electric vehicle. Like Teslas have proven it. They're a terrific vehicle, and they've been around for a while now. So they've proven their longevity. I think they're good cars. I just don't have any passion for them. Oh, I know this person. 66 VW 21 window bus. First car was a 62 VW notchback. Now that is a car I've never seen a picture of. This is my mom, by the way. I've never seen a picture of that car, and I want to see a picture of it because that would be so cool. Family of the Black Horseman says, do you ever consult for anything or don't mind the occasional question? Absolutely. Yeah, no, I don't mind. I I don't mind answering things if I can. If I don't know, I'll try to tell you that as well. But best thing to do is usually contact me through Instagram at reignited.tx. Just send me a direct message there and I'll try to reply. Making more power on a 98 Mustang GT. So that's got the 4.6 liter in there, I want to say. Mod motor. I've never actually worked on one of those, the 4.6. I like the sound of them. I think when they have a full exhaust on them, they sound really cool. But as far as I know, they're not the best for actually making good power out of. 93 Cutlass Supreme. Ooh, that's nice. I followed up my VW Bug with a Nissan Pathfinder, though. So that wasn't exactly the most amazing vehicle ever. It was a good vehicle, but it wasn't like exciting in any way, shape, or form. But I tell you, after having that VW Bug with manual everything, getting in that Nissan Pathfinder with all the electric power, everything, it's great. Really, the Hondas had a 91 CRX, put a K24 TSX motor in it with right-hand drive, sold it, bought a 2012 Charger SRT8, been a Mopar guy since then. I tell you, it's funny how many Honda guys become V8 guys after you drive a V8. It's interesting. I was a huge, this sounds kind of funny, but I was a neon guy way back when. I was into Dodge Neons, and I had one that I did a lot of different stuff too, and I used to race that thing all over the place. And I always hated on the V8s because my family was all into Fox body Mustangs. They all had Fox body Mustangs. That was the black sheep. I had a Dodge Neon. And I was like, oh, this thing is awesome, But it's kind of just it. I think it's like the idea of making more power with something smaller. Like it's more fun to beat on the bigger guys like that. But sometimes you just drive something that's got a lot of power, and you're like, oh, that is nice. Torque is a great thing. I like it. SRT4, yeah, man. So I was working at a Dodge dealer when those came out, and I was like 20 years old or something like that. And I legitimately was trying to buy one of those brand new. I wanted to buy the SRT4. However, you had to be an SRT dealer, and we were just a local small town dealer, and they had to pay a bunch of money to become an SRT dealer. And they were like, nah, we're not doing that. So I didn't get one. But I mean, I'm kind of glad I didn't now, because I probably would have wrecked it or done something bad with it. I probably would have overbuilt it is what I would have done, because I would have done a bunch of mods to it as a daily driver, which I've already said is a terrible idea. So yes, 15 Charger, 05 300C, and a 2000 GT Mustang. How much did it cost to do the Challenger? You know what? I haven't actually tallied up all the numbers. I'm going to give you some like off the top of my head numbers. Let's see. The shifter was $500. Wheels and tires together, $1,800. No, that's high. Wheels and tires are more like $1,500. And then the cam, the lifters, the valve springs, all the gaskets and seals and everything, probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 or $600, somewhere around there. The headers were $200. I got those off of eBay as takeoffs from a crate motor. The K&N air intake system was $350. The Diablo tuner was $400 or $500. Catch can was another $100, something like that. But I haven't tallied it all up. That's a good idea. I should do that. Put that all together. Always wanted a 94 and 98 Mustang. Yeah, so my brother had a 95 Mustang GT the last year of the 5-liter Mustangs, but it had the newer body style. And it was like a teal blue, but it had these 20-inch wheels on there, chrome wheels. And it sounds gaudy to say it, but man, I kind of wish I had that car now. He put a Pro 5.0 shifter in there, had leather seats from a 2008 Mustang GT in there. Like it was a nice car. He had a nice exhaust on there. I think the only problem with that car was it had 273 gears in it, so it's just stupidly tall gears. But other than that, that was a super cool car. We got into an accident with it one day, and that was kind of it for that car. All right, guys. I know there's more of you out there. You guys start chatting with me. Tell me what's going on with you. What got you into cars? What's your connection? Why does it mean so much to you? I'll hit you with one more story of my own. So I've always had an interest in mechanical things. I wasn't necessarily into cars per se, but I always liked to know how things worked. And my favorite story I like to tell, I don't know how accurate it really is. It's just my own memory talking here. But I think when I was about 11 years old, I took my dad's lawnmower apart because I wanted to see how it worked. And I literally took like every single nut and bolt out of this thing. Like I just had it strewn across his garage. And I was like, that's fascinating. And my dad came home from work. I saw it. I was like, what the heck are you doing? Put that thing back together. And I looked at him and I was like, put it back together? What are you talking about? Like the thought had never even crossed my mind that I might potentially have to put this thing back together again. I did. I'm pretty sure it only ever ran at full throttle after that, though. I don't know what I did, but it kind of worked. I like Teslas as a brand. I don't really care about them as a car. I think they are incredibly efficient. I think they work well. I think they look nice, which to me was the key to making that company work. If you look at all the other big manufacturers when they were doing their hybrid vehicles or their full electric vehicles, it always made the cars look stupid. Like who wants to drive around in a stupid looking car? That doesn't make any sense at all. Like make the thing look like people would want to drive it. And that's what Tesla did. And what do you know? They sell a lot of them. NASCAR and NHRA Sunday mornings. Wow. Yeah, NHRA probably. I could get behind that. I remember watching some of that stuff back in the day. Dukes of Hazzard. Now that's a classic right there. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Who doesn't love the Dukes of Hazzard? That's great. You know, I say that. I bet if I rewatch some of the episodes now, I'd be like, a lot of questionable stuff happening in these episodes. But it's that revisionist history, you know, like that happens all the time. Some of my movies I love from when I was a kid, I tell my family, I'm like, oh, I love this movie. Let's watch this movie. And we watch it. I'm like, man, I don't remember any of this stuff in here. It's not so good. But yeah, Dukes of Hazzard. Good stuff. Good stuff. I like the fact that Tesla's of what they're capable of, right? You know, with the instant torque and all that, and you know they beat up on a lot of vehicles, and you know the battery tech. I think the big thing for me is that Tesla has completely changed the game as far as batteries and how long it takes to charge and all that. Like they are just absolutely leading that front, and that had to happen for electric cars to really become a thing for people. So now that they've done that, I think that's been the most impressive feat to me. Mike says, as a teen, my friend's dad took me for a drive and I knew at the time Dodge Stealth Twin Turbo, which is his brother-in-law's, and he drove it like it was his brother-in-law's too. No question. Yeah, I remember a friend of mine in high school had one of those Dodge Stealth Twin Turbos. I think it worked for like 2 months and then it never worked again. Never had the opportunity to work on one of those things, but I've seen the engine bay. I don't think it'd be very much fun. Electric Mustang. Now, that is a strange concept. I'm not really sure what they were going for there. I mean, you have to know your core brand, and I just don't think that electric is Mustang core branding at all. Like, if you wanted to call it something else entirely, do that. That makes more sense to me. You're going to garner a bigger market share doing that than calling it a Mustang. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. Ford Escorts, Cortinas, Ford manual carbureted, then Japanese after that. Cool. Yeah, Ford Escorts can be cool. Thought the Stealth was a rocket ship. You know what's funny? How like 200 horsepower felt like a lot back then, right? Like we are completely spoiled now with some of the vehicles that we have. I always say this, and people get upset about this, but like a Toyota Camry today will beat most muscle cars from the 60s. It just will. It's faster than them. And it will do it with no sweat and with the AC on. Like that's a sad thing to think about, but it's true. Like it's crazy how capable cars are now. A Plymouth Laser. I gotta be honest, I'm not super up on my DSM stuff. Is that, it's not an Eclipse, but what is that? It's like my dad's on the chat. He says, still finding some tools in the bushes around the yard for me guys. Yeah, we weren't very good about that. He was always getting after us about putting our tools back where we got them, because then we would know where they were the next time we went to look for them. I didn't have time for that. I'm done with that tool. Get rid of it. The irony is, like the commercial says, we all do become our parents eventually. And now I'm completely anal about my tools, and they have to be exactly where they need to go. Otherwise, it drives me absolutely up a wall. Electric Mustang seems a flop. I don't know. Too early to tell. You know, that's the thing. Mike's saying the Mach-E is a nice car, though. Yes, it is. I think they did a good job, and I think it follows the pattern of what I said about making something look cool. I just don't think they should have put the Mustang name on it. That's all. Tried over the winter to rebuild a TPMS for a Dodge Ram 2500. I had success after building overall planes. I'll never attempt to do this again. I know. TPMS systems are not my favorite. The only time I think a TPMS system makes sense is for trailers. Like I like it for that. That totally makes sense. But for everyday vehicles, but it became government mandated however many years ago, and that's why they all have it. 320 out of the Stealth. I didn't know that. That's impressive. That's a big number, especially for back then. I mean, it was a heavy car, but even so, same as Eclipse. It was a Laser. Okay, a Laser and Eclipse. Okay. Yeah, the Model Y. I mean, Tesla does some amazing things. I mean, whatever you think of Elon Musk as a person, I think he's kind of a crazy man. But look what the dude has accomplished, you know, with SpaceX, with his Boring company, with all of his different companies, but Tesla specifically. Absolutely incredible what his drive accomplishes him to do. You know, I remember when the Teslas were first being manufactured, and they were like 2 years behind schedule, and everyone was hating on them, and it looked like it was going to flop like every other electric car enterprise. Now look at them. I just read today that they are the most profitable automotive company out there right now, worth like $702 billion or something crazy like that. I mean, that's just unreal what that dude has accomplished. Still a crazy man, but crazy people accomplish a lot of stuff. When I was 12, I moved to the States and watched the Fast and the Furious. The first 3 movies is what got me a lot more into cars. Now, you know what's funny about that? I think that's where most of this current generation is into cars, is because of those Fast and the Furious movies. I remember watching the first one. I was 18, I believe. And I watched the first one, and typical hater at the time, I was like, this movie's so stupid. None of that stuff's real, blah, 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 blah. And it doesn't matter. What matters is that it got people excited about cars, you know? And so now, like, that's how I take it now. Like that franchise, as ludicrous as all the movies are, it has nothing to do with that. They're movies, right? It's just about cars, and it gets people into them. So what's funny to me is I remember looking back with such disdain at that movie, but there were so many like 6 and 7-year-olds that watched that movie that's their favorite movie of all time. And that's what got them into it. So yeah, you gotta love that. How do you feel about autonomous driving? That's a good one, because I feel like the systems are better than people think they are. I think there's just a few bad accidents that happen that are far less than happen with regular drivers anyway. So I think the autonomous systems are actually pretty darn good. And I think that people just like to sensationalize when they do make a mistake because they're very worried about them. Mitsubishi Starion back in the day. K-car. Yeah. Yeah, Plymouth definitely had a version. Little DSM stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that Turbo 2.2. They used to put those in the Dodge Omni as well and make some stupid power. I think I saw one time had 800 horsepower out of a 2.2 turbocharged Omni. Had giant slicks on it. Any thoughts on the Dodge TRX or the Ford Raptor? I'd say yes. I like the TRX just because it's awesome. You know, who wouldn't want a Hellcat motor in a Dodge truck? Actually, one of the service writers at my previous work, he bought one. This guy, first of all, he is the best service writer I've ever seen in my life. Like, I worked with a lot of service writers before. This dude's incredible. Never seen anything like it. Like, makes the most money I have ever seen being a service writer. Unreal. Blew me away. Anyway, like his daily driver is a Hellcat Challenger. And then he also bought a TRX truck. And then he also has an SRT-10 Viper truck. And he also has another like SRT vehicle as well. Like, it's stupid with this guy. Anyway, he bought this TRX truck and he was showing it off to me. That thing is huge. I don't know if you've seen one in person or not, but the track width on it is gigantic. I don't know how it actually fits within a lane to drive. It is so wide. Let's see here. No, I haven't removed the rev limiter yet. I've been so stuck into the C10 build that I've just been driving the Challenger. I gotta tell you though, I took that thing to lunch today. I love that car. It is so much fun to drive. It was like rainy and nasty outside, so it wasn't like getting on it, but man, just driving that thing. I love that car. It turned out so nice. I like it a lot. Yeah, NOS explosion, non-flammable. Yeah. Hello, Clay. How are you doing this evening? I hope you're doing well. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how old a lot of you guys are, but if you didn't see it, when the Fast and the Furious franchise came out, that literally spawned an entire movement for cars, because that whole scene with the body kits and the neon and everything, like, that was there, but it wasn't like hugely popular until that movie came out, and then it just flat exploded. And like I said, it just, like, everyone all of a sudden became a car enthusiast because of that. I remember coming out of the movie for the very first time in the theater, and I was in San Diego at the time, and we're going to our car, and there's a huge parking garage, and you just hear floors and floors of people just revving their cars like these junker cars, and they're just banging them off the limiter in the parking garage, you know, and doing burnouts everywhere. And there was like 4 police officers just waiting just outside the parking garage, waiting for people to leave so they could pull them over, because they knew the movie would do that. But it was awesome. Like, it got people excited about cars again, and especially for having a 19-speed transmission in your Mitsubishi Eclipse. Let's see. So I have a 2019 Ram 1500 e-torque, my regular 12-volt truck battery, with most likely because of missing the rest of that comment. How do you like that e-torque system though? I haven't had a chance to work on any of the trucks with the e-torque in there. It was still kind of just coming out when I left the dealer. Oh, here we go. Need a dealership 12-volt battery to get my reverse cam to work. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. Mopar's kind of had some problems lately with their factory batteries, especially like the little accessory battery for the start-stop systems. Just had really poor luck with those things. Too soon, Junior. So many classic lines. Chrysler Conquest. Yeah. Where did the names go, guys? Where did the names go? Look at these names. Conquest, Laser. Come on. It's good stuff. I'm an American Muscle fan, but I have respect for all performance cars. Absolutely. I really have problems with people who are just like, they got the blinders on when it comes to cars. Like, all manufacturers get it right and all of them get it wrong. Like if you're not open to those cars that they got right, you're really missing out because there's some cool stuff out there. Sad to say though, most of the people who like those movies, Fast and Furious, don't know where to find a spare tire in their car, much less change it. Yeah, I know, and I kind of felt that way initially, but now that I'm getting a little bit older, like for me, it doesn't even matter as much about knowing anything about your car. It's just that like you're a car enthusiast, because that drives the whole industry. Like if you're willing to spend money on things and have them installed for you, even if you're not doing the work yourself. Like obviously I'm the type of guy that I like to do that work myself, but still though, if you're just, you know, even if you're just into cars in a peripheral way like that, I'm all right with it. I like it. Yeah, Chrysler Laser XC with a turbo 2.2. You know, those cars are fast. I mean, they just were, and they were light too because they had like no safety at all. But those suspensions on those things are sketchy. Keeping the Challenger, I don't think I'm keeping it long term. However, I did decide that the Challenger is going to be my backup for Rocky Mountain Race Week if for some reason I can't get the C10 done in time. I am pushing as hard as I possibly can. I'm really trying everything I can to get the truck done in time. However, if I miss that, I'll at least have the Challenger, and I'll at least be able to go and do the whole race with the Challenger. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Like I wish I could have been in the writer's room when they were coming up with this script. They were just like, yes, that's awesome. You gotta wonder if they had anyone who knew anything about cars in the room at all, or were they just like, that sounds good, go with it. Actually, really cool. If you guys check out Craig Lieberman's YouTube channel, he's the guy who built all of the cars for Fast and Furious throughout all the years. He has some really, really cool stuff and some neat like behind the scenes on the movies. And he talked about being in some of those writers' scenes, and they were basically like, tell them what they're going to do. And he was trying to tell them, hey, that's not how cars work. You shouldn't put that in there. But they were like, whatever, who cares? No one will know the difference anyway. They're like, we need something dramatic, so this is what we're going to do, even though it makes no sense. Yeah. Let's see, 1994 Integra Ls Manual. Yeah. Any car with a manual transmission can make you feel like you're fast, especially if you're shifting it Fast and Furious style. You know, just grabbing a gear, grab a gear. You're not going any faster, but you know, it seems cool. I dislike e-torque, mostly the auto start stop. I turn it off every time I get in the truck. Yes, the start stop stuff, man, it just doesn't. I hate those systems. I mean, you know, we're talking percentages of a percent of fuel mileage savings with start stop systems. And then you have to beef up all these other components to handle the start stop. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know. Where I live has a quarter-mile track for streetcars, and that LS did a 15.8. What a hot rod. Yeah. You know, I will say though, my Dodge Neon that I had back in the day, now it went through several different versions, but the version I had when I was just out of high school was I had several bolt-ons on. I had a long tube header and bigger throttle body and stuff like that. And I was running a 15.2, and I think in that car, like my best ever was a 15.15, and I was winning while racing because we were doing bracket racing, you know, so I was fairly consistent with the car. But I don't know, 15.1 felt pretty fast to me. I mean, it's like embarrassingly slow versus modern times, but I don't know, I felt like I was cruising. Michael Mark says, if I remember right, you can choose what RPM you want to limit on that can tune. I set mine to 6,200. That would be a good move. I need to do that because that stock rev limit is useless. Like the car is still pulling strong and it just shuts it down. And it's like, okay, 5750, come on. There's a local who's a classic car snob. I'm going to get a bought not built t-shirt just to tweak him a bit. Yes, I am in favor of tweaking people like that. Absolutely. Anyone who's too much on their high horse about whatever it is that they're doing, I don't know. I have issues with those people. We all have stuff we need to work on and learn. Aftermarket winch on the truck. I think that played a role in 12 volt battery dying. The e-torque is most ideal if you have stoplights and don't use AC or heat. That cuts time down a lot. Yeah, I don't know about the winch playing a role because it shouldn't draw any power whatsoever unless it's like got a ready standby mode or something like that. I doubt it does. So I don't think that would have played in. I think Chrysler's batteries lately have just had not the greatest reputation. Sarah Posey says, new to the channel, you boosted my confidence in buying a 2015 Ram 1500 Lone Star 5.7 Hemi Crew Cab. Absolutely. That's a great truck. And honestly, like I've said it before, I like the 1500s the most as far as reliability goes. I think they've been building that truck for a long time. They have it pretty dialed. I think it'd be in good shape. Looking to do the top end of my 06 1500 Mega Cab 5.7. Do you search out factory only parts? Or are there any favorite sites you go to for quality replacements? I've mentioned it before. I'm a factory guy. I like factory engine parts because generally I feel like if they've made it at least 100,000 miles, that's a pretty good track record if you ask me. And if I'm going to be in there and doing that kind of work, I like to use factory parts to go another 100,000 miles with them. And those are pretty rare, those 1500 Mega Cabs. I don't envy you reaching down into the engine bay. Those things are set so far back in there. Yeah, you wreck the motor mounts on your way home from the movie. Yeah, no question. I bet you did. Any manual car with a hole in the exhaust goes twice faster than the way it came out of the factory. Yep, we know that to be true. I feel bad for all of our neighbors. We grew up in a community where we were the only young family in the whole neighborhood. Everyone else was like 50 plus, 60 plus. And like I said, my brothers and sisters all had Fox body Mustangs. I had a car that I worked on, and we all had exhausts on our cars. And we come home 2, 3 in the morning, you know. I feel bad for all those old people. Sorry, guys. Eric says, I have my 5.7 tuned with Edge Performance Tuner, MBRP exhaust, K&N cold air, and daily drive it. I did not know that MBRP made an exhaust for a 5.7. That's interesting. I mean, it makes sense. You know, that's what they do is exhaust stuff, but I didn't know that. What is the one car brand you kind of don't like working on? My choice is BMW. Very nice riding cars, but gets expensive real quick. Yes, very much in line with that. Mercedes. You know, Chrysler was owned by Mercedes for a period of years there. And so there was a lot of crossover with those vehicles. And you always know when it was a Mercedes design that was used because it uses 12 bolts when 2 will do. And they'll all be different sizes. I literally do not understand the concept of what they're doing there with those engineers, but absolutely drives me up a wall. You go to work on these things and it is just nuts. Perfect example. So the 3-liter diesel in the Jeep Grand Cherokee that they did, it's the same engine that's in the Sprinter vans, the older ones, but it's a 3-liter diesel and it's actually a really punchy diesel engine, makes good power and everything. However, they have several known issues with them. And one of them is that the thing called a swirl valve, it mounts underneath the turbocharger in the intake valley. And what it does is it actually slides these little flapper valves in the intake port to like change your runner length or something like that. And the swirl valves always go bad. We have to remove the turbo to get to that thing. But on the Jeep Grand Cherokee, you cannot remove the turbo because it runs into the cowling of the truck. So you have to actually drop the subframe down far enough to get the turbo out of there to do the swirl valve. It's the stupidest design I've ever seen in my life. Actually, not true. EcoDiesel is far more stupid. However, it's pretty bad. Not a fan of the Mercedes designs. Let's see. Roland, That is a heck of a first car. A 68 Charger RT with a 440. Woo! It says, my neighbor blamed me for making him late for work when I finally patched the hole. Man, that's a heck of a first car, though. I'm always jealous. You know what I'm jealous of? People who have their first car still. You know, they've kept it forever and ever, and they end up restoring it down the line. Like, that was always something I was always jealous of. I wish I could have done that. I'm going to tell you another story here. The demise of my first car. So, like I mentioned, I had a 71 Super Beetle. And I had it done up, you know, it was all lowered, and I had the engine in there, and it was kind of cool. I had a stereo system like everyone did back in the day. But you know how that it is with like old cars, like you guys totally get it, where when you have an old car, it makes a lot of noises. But you kind of know what those noises are, so there's like a catalog in your head of all these noises that your car makes. And one day, I'm driving with my nephew. It was my nephew. I don't remember. Anyway, we're driving to go to a drive-in theater, and we're driving on the highway, and all of a sudden my car starts making this new noise. I'm like, I don't know that one yet. Whatever. I'll look at it when we get there. So we're driving along. Car pulls up next to me. Guy shouts out, "You're on fire!" So huge surprise. Volkswagen on fire. I'm like, thank you. Pull off to the side of the road. And sure enough, the whole back end of the car is on fire. Best as I can figure, I think my fuel line split and sprayed fuel on the motor, and just up it went. Well, if you know anything about VWs, you know that the block is made out of magnesium. And magnesium, once it lights, it's on its way. You're not going to stop it, right? So the guy who told me I was on fire, he pulled over and he starts pouring soda all over it, trying to put it out. And I'm just like, dude, forget it. It's over. Don't worry about it. So he's just throwing the cans on the ground. Well, he runs out of soda. He starts pouring beer on there. He's got beer in his car too. So he's still trying. And I'm just like, dude, what are you doing? Well, anyway, but at this point, there's a bunch of cans all littering outside the car. So when the cops show up, they think I'm drunk because there's beer cans all over the place. I'm like, yes, I lit my car on fire. Then I drank a 12-pack of beer. That's what I did. So the back end of my car is on fire, and it's going pretty good at this point. But I'm like, whatever. I rebuilt this car before. I'll do it again. You know, so be it. They park a fire truck in front of the car so I can't see it. And then about 20 minutes later, they move the fire truck. Car's gone. Gone. It melted this thing to the ground. All four tires melted off the wheels. Paint completely gone. Interior completely gone. It's gone. So that thing got towed out to a scrapyard, and as far as I know, is still sitting there. Sad story. What components or modules control the startup for push button start is called the RFH, the radio frequency hub. That is what does the little handshake deal between your key and all those other modules. So, or it depends on the year of the vehicle, but it could be called a wireless control module. But most modern vehicles, like say 12 or 13 and up, it's going to be an RFH, a radio frequency hub, and that's the one that controls all that. For the Hemis, watch out for the manifold bolts that break. Yep, that is true. If you are buying a 1500, more than likely your exhaust manifold bolts will break at some point. That's true. Heard you say in the live chat you didn't like the EcoDiesel. What don't you like about the motor? How much time do you have? I will go on for days about the EcoDiesel. Now, my biggest issue with the EcoDiesel is that there is so much. That engine works fantastic over in Europe, but over here with the added emission stuff that they had to put on there, it chokes the motor so badly that it just causes all sorts of problems down the line. When you strip all that stuff away, it's actually a pretty decent engine underneath, but there's just too much nonsense all over it, and it just causes problem after problem after problem. And if you do not have a warranty on it, it gets stupid expensive really, really quickly. We didn't see them as much down here in Texas, but back in Oregon, where I'm from, we had a rash of EcoDiesels with 10,000 miles on them that were throwing rods through the block. Just rattle, 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 boom. And usually it was when people are towing or something else. And we never, ever got an answer from Chrysler about what they thought the cause might be. A lot of times they don't tell us stuff like that. They just come out with like updated software and just say, just perform a software update. They don't tell us why they're doing it. So I don't really know, but literally we did just at my dealer, we did between 15 and 20 of those engines where they just threw a rod right through the side of the block. Now, weirdly, it was only happening to the trucks, not the Grand Cherokees. So I'm not really sure what the difference there was. But man, I hate that motor. Well, and the problem too is I really dislike the EcoDiesel because working on it, it is the most difficult engine to work on ever. I mean, I've worked on a lot of different cars and a lot of different engines. That engine is just stupid. And excuse me, the reason is because everything is layered in it. You have the harness, which is layered within the fuel lines, which is layered within the fuel return lines, which is layered within another harness, which is layered within intercooler hoses. I have a series of pictures from a Jeep Grand Cherokee where I had to do cylinder heads on that engine. I'll try to dig those pictures up for you guys. It is stupid complex how many components there are. Makes no sense. Roland, I love stories like that. It was 1975. It was a 7-year-old car. It was only $800. Drove it 2 years and sold it for $800. Oh my gosh. I know, right? Craziness. Could have funded your retirement right now. Kelly says, I hate to say it, but I love my 2011 Genesis with a 375 horsepower, 4.6 linear power ZF Trans, and we'll get 27 miles per gallon cruising on the highway. Never thought I would ever buy a Hyundai. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, like, right? Keep your eyes open and your mind open to new possibilities, because guess what? That is a great car. You know, that's fantastic. I mean, incredible power and that kind of mileage. ZF Trans, fantastic. Man. Bob, I have not talked to them yet. No, I keep meaning to do it. But like I said, I'm like laser focused on the C10 project right now because I literally only have so much time to get this thing ready. And I'm working some pretty long hours on it, just trying to get everything I can done. Oh, my brother's on here. He says he misses that Beetle. That was fun. It was quite the entertaining car. You know how it is when you're a high school kid though, right? And you have your car, and like I worked on this thing forever, and I didn't actually finish the car though. My dad always said, don't make it to where you can drive it because then you'll never finish it. And I was like, what are you talking about? That's exactly what happened. I never finished the car. As soon as it could drive, good enough. And one of the issues it had was I still had the original fuel tank in there that had like rust in there and stuff. And over the 2 years that I had the car, I never ever took the tank out to flush it. I never replaced the tank, nothing. I would just drive it until it would stall, and then I would have to wait until somebody could come bring me some compressed air so I could blow it back through the fuel line and clear it out. Then I could drive again. It's like the things you look at now, you're like, what are you doing? Like, why would you do that? Why would you even do that more than once? But no, I did that multiple times. It's classic. Wesley says, can you recommend a decent scan tool? You know, it's tough to say. Depends on what you want to do with it. Because there's a lot of basic scan tools that will work for just like powertrain related codes and stuff. But if you're looking for something a little bit deeper, something a little bit stronger that goes for like airbag and, you know, occupant restraint controllers and, you know, ABS modules, all that kind of stuff. If you're looking for something that's going to do something stronger, in my opinion, it's the same idea as when you're buying a welder. Get the best one you can afford, because the more capabilities, you're never going to regret that. Whereas if you go with a cheaper one, you'd be like, I kind of wish it could do this or it could do that. So get the absolute best one you can afford. I have the Autel myself. I'm actually really, really happy with it. It's working really well. It was not cheap. It was $1,800, but it does what I want it to do. Bluetooth, I like it a lot. It works well. Hey, Mike, you made it. Have you figured out how to tune your Revolut on a Challenger? No, I still haven't done it. I've been telling them that I've been too stuck into my C10 to even like mess with the Challenger right now. How high can you rev the 5.7? You know, I would be comfortable at 6,500. That would be kind of max for me, that I would say, but I don't have a ton of experience dyno tuning these things. So I'm not, you know, I don't have any firsthand experience, but for me, 6,500 I'm plenty comfortable with that. Eric says he loves his 2008 first edition Challenger SRT 6.1 liter. Just concerned about the lifter camshaft issues. Eric, I have some good news for you. The 6.1s don't really suffer from that issue. They don't have the MDS system in there. And for whatever reason, the pre-VVT models, which yours does not have the VVT on there, those ones really don't have lifter issues. So you can kind of set your mind at ease. That's actually a really solid engine you've got there. I like those ones a lot. Silly goose, that's disgusting. Eric, trying to find a qualified Dodge mechanic anywhere has become quite difficult these days. I hate to say it, but even in my workplace, it's kind of the luck of the draw as far as which tech you get, as far as like which ones are capable and which ones are not. There's the usual mix. So you have a couple of experienced guys who are good, but they're burned out. Then you have a few younger guys who are up and comers and they're still like pushing hard and doing a good job. And then you've got the lazy guys who never wanted to work on cars anyways. And then you got the guys who are totally green and don't have a clue what they're doing, but they still hand them this work. And you're like, what are you doing? They're not ready for that. We had a kid toast a Cummins 6.7 engine doing that. They gave him an engine replacement job. Kid didn't have a clue what he was doing. He was like 2 months out of the loop bay. And they're like, oh, this is a long-term job. You can take a month to do it if you want. Put the 6.7 engine in this truck. Like, what on earth are you thinking? It was terrible. I don't know. It was, yeah, I think he put the oil pump on, but he never tightened the bolts down for the oil pump. So the thing lost oil pressure, toasted a brand new motor. Is the Barton shifter too high? Seems like it's about 2 inches higher than stock. That's a good question because my car originally had the pistol grip shifter on there. So the new ball shifter is shorter than that. But as far as overall position, no, I love it. I love it. And, it's loosened up quite a bit from where it was. And now it slides into gear very much more easily. You don't have to quite force it in like you did before. I love that thing more and more every day. I think it's awesome. What's the best fuel economy you'd expect on an 05 Dodge Ram quad cab with a 5.7 Hemi? Only seem to ever get around the average of 12 to 13. Yeah, it all depends. I mean, 05, I don't think you have MDS on that anyway. I mean, I would think you could get 15 out of it, but it all depends. My 06 Mega 1500 5.7 doesn't have MDS and it has 160K on it. Should I do a cam lifter when I do the heads for the valve seats? No reason to do the cam. I don't think you can replace lifters just because you're there and it makes sense with that kind of mileage to do it. But the cam, I don't think it would be necessary. What you do is once you pull the lifters out, then you shine a flashlight down the lifter bore and you can inspect all the cam lobes individually and see if there's any signs of any scoring on there. If there's not, I just leave it. $14 miles per gallon in my 07. That's the thing. I literally have not checked the mileage in my Challenger at all because I just love driving that thing. It's just fun. I don't even want to know, right? Like if I actually know what the mileage is, that might kind of ruin some of my enjoyment. So I don't want to do it. Yeah, what is going on with your Charger stalling? What is happening there? What's the conditions in which it's stalling? What do you think about the front end on the 2018 Ram 1500? Would you replace with Mopar parts when out of warranty? You talking like tie rods and ball joints and stuff like that? If so, yes. Because they're just plain better than aftermarket parts. Aftermarket parts are just like, for me, especially when it comes to like front end components and stuff, you're talking about like with aftermarket parts, you're going to get like 30% of the lifespan of factory parts to me. Eric says he's got a 2015 Challenger 5.7 with 78K on it. How can I mitigate the MDS lifter camshaft on it? Replace them now? That's always the question. However, in my mind, the cost of actually replacing those components is fairly close to the cost of just fixing the issue if it happens anyway. So it's one of those deals where it's like, yeah, you know, it kind of, you would think it would make sense to get out in front of it. But honestly, the cost is so similar. It's like, I would just wait to see if it happens anyway, you know? And then basically, if you've got the money to fix it, if it does happen, cool, great. Just sit on the money and just, that's good. But trying to be preemptive about it, I don't know. That's pretty good, getting 16 highway mile per gallon with a mega cab with a Hemi. Father-in-law just bought a 2016 Durango 5.7 Citadel with 45,000 miles. Anything he should know or check for? The only thing I would say on that vehicle to look for is premature water pump failure. We always saw water pumps. You know, the Durangos, the Grand Cherokees, the Citadels, they always had water pump issues around that era. Stalls when idling. Man, that's interesting. And no codes, no nothing like that. Moog Professional has good aftermarket parts. I would agree with that. Yeah. Am I straight? I hope so. Ask my wife. So how much money are we talking to replace the MDS lifters and camshafts? It depends on who's doing the work, obviously, but between an aftermarket shop or a dealership, you're kind of looking somewhere in the range of $3,500 to $4,500, somewhere around there. So definitely not the cheapest thing in the world. That's why I say if you don't need to take care of it now, maybe just like stockpile some money just in case. Because again, it doesn't affect like all Hemis. Like it's not one of those deals where eventually you'll have that issue. That's not the case. So, all right, guys, we have made it an hour. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it there. Really appreciate all of you guys showing up here. It's been fun doing the live stream thing. I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. If you have some ideas for future live streams, things we can talk about, go ahead and put those in the comments. I'll go ahead and read those as well. But just thank you guys for absolutely everything. We'll see you next time. I'll see when we can do our next live stream. Thanks, guys.